What's going on, guys, and welcome back to some more Planet Coaster. We are back in what is going to be probably one of the longest videos so far in this series, and that's because I took a step back and I was like, alright, we're like now 6 episodes in, and we're still not even close to opening the park. So I really wanted to knock this little part of what you're seeing right now out, and then maybe do some little things that I have had in the works for a little while now, so you'll see those as the episode progresses, and then of course we'll go in and check everything out in the live portion of the video later on. But first we have to continue work on these small row houses, and this one that we're currently building, I wanted to kind of take a different style than we had seen in the other, I guess that corner one. There's only one so far, unless you count the modern thing, but it's not even part of the row. But anyway, yeah, you can see me kind of trying to fiddle around with the roofs here, and it was kind of weird. So this building I wanted to set back a little bit, but the default grid would have put it a full like wall tile back, and to me that looked a little strange. So what I did is I took the grid and I made it all the way, I shrunk it down to as small as it could go, and then I went ahead and kind of worked with a new, I guess, quarter of the original grid. So if anybody doesn't know, you can actually take the grid size and shrink it down in a few different increments, I believe, and then kind of build it's all kind of technically in the same grid, but now it's got little smaller increments that you can use. So this is set back, as you can see right now, actually not a full tile's worth, but definitely a half tile. So that's kind of giving a little bit more dimension to this row of buildings that is eventually going to be constructed here. But yeah, you can see this. The purpose of this one is to get the path up to that lookout that we did in the last episode, I believe. So yes, I didn't actually go in and detail all that much in the interior of this building, but there is enough that from the outside, it looks like it's been, I guess, detailed. I really don't like when people build in this game and they don't detail the interior. Like, if you're looking from the outside, you should see mostly a completed building, in my opinion. But there's some people out there, I guess, that don't do it. And I really wanted to, if you're just like walking around or you're moving the camera around, I wanted you to be able to look into these buildings and not be like, oh, it's just a shell, you know? I wanted you to have the illusion, I guess, to think that, yes, this full building is here in front of me and it's been meticulously crafted and there is definitely a purpose to it. When in reality, it is just a shell. It's really strange. But yeah, we'll go ahead and check that out in the live portion. I will say that I did cut out not a lot. This time lapse is gonna be like 25-ish minutes long. So yeah, there's a lot in this, but I also did cut out a bunch of it just because it was like redundant building. Like building the back of the buildings, I kind of cut that out, and I think I cut out a lot of the interior stuff in this building. But yeah, we're gonna point all of that out. We're gonna go back and look at all of this in the live portion, so don't worry. But yeah, right now we're just detailing this it's the first building in this episode, but it's the second building in this row. And I really wanted to give this area a little bit of dimension in terms of this like wood paneling or the supports here. And then with the base, you saw me put down the rocks, but then I actually ended up picking out this stone, I think, or old brick. I'm not sure what it's called, but you see me flip that around, and it adds just that little bit more dimension to this building. So if you are playing this game and you feel like your buildings don't look great, a lot of the times what it's missing is dimensionality. So you see on the bottom of this building, there's like a brick, and it comes out from the wall a little bit, and then on top of that we have that little wood plank, and then behind that, I guess, is the actual wall itself. And then as you go up the building, the gray brick is on the same plane as the white stucco, or whatever you want to call that, but it looks like it's I guess sunken in a little bit more because of the way we use that trim. So just, I guess, little things like that to keep in mind if you're building in this game and want to get a little bit better at it. Now, speaking of getting better at it, I realized that as we build out this street here, there's a lot of weird styles clashing, and that's one thing that I admittedly am not very great with, is just styling things in the same kind of feel. I guess like this whole little area was supposed to be kind of European feeling, but I think I don't know. I guess you guys can let me know in the comments what you think of this, but I feel like there's just a couple, like the whole row of buildings here, it's just a little like here and there, but in the end, I guess it's okay. I just feel like I don't know how I feel about it. It's definitely okay, but you can definitely step back a little bit and just be like, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and it might not mesh well, and I think that's the thing that I'm not very good at, is seeing what matches, like what styles kind of mesh well together. But at the same time, I did want to make it feel like these buildings are separate buildings and not just one giant building. So at the same time, I was trying to make all of these styles differentiate themselves just a little bit from the previous building. So on that note, I believe we accomplished it, but on the meshing together, I'm not really sure. But anyway, you're seeing me do a lot of detail work with these wooden planks, and actually that was a really cool trick that I just did to get the planks spun exactly 180 degrees. So if you pick things up with a wall piece, it will stay on the grid that the wall is on. So if you just pick up like a prop, like if I were to just pick up one of those planks, I can spin it whichever direction I wanted to. But if something's on the wall, you can only spin it 4 directions. So that's the one trick that I used right there, was to take that whole cross brace and then take it with the wall and just spin it around. And it worked really well, and I need to remember that trick for later on. But we're just going through here now and detailing a little bit in front of the building that we just did. And yeah, I really, like I said, I wanted each one of these little buildings to feel like its own property. And I've been trying to do that a lot in my City Skylines series as well. And I feel like we've accomplished that. When we go into the live portion of the video, you'll see when we kind of just like take a step back, and I'll do that a lot when I'm building things, is just take a step back and just take it all in. But when you do that, this whole row looks like there's definitely 4, or I think 3 buildings on it currently. Now, this is the next building that we're doing, and funny enough that I actually took a lot of inspiration from Bob's Burgers. I don't know if any of you guys watch that show, but I started watching that show, and I was like, you know what? I really like the style of the asymmetry of their burger building, I guess. So I took that into account. I actually had a picture of their restaurant pulled up on my other monitor as I was building this, and I just kind of, you'll see the slight influence from it. Now, obviously, it's not the same color, but I love just, because everything we've been doing has been pretty symmetrical, so I just love the fact that this building isn't quite like straight up and down symmetric. So it just adds a little bit of, I guess, asymmetry is the word, but it's a little bit more interesting to look at. But once again, the kind of stucco brick kind of building material that we used here, it may clash a little bit with the rest of the street, but at the same time, I feel like it's definitely a cool building in itself, but I just don't know if it works together like with the rest of the buildings, and I guess that's something you guys can let me know. But yeah, it's really hard to, I don't know, it's hard to make a coherent, I guess, area in this game for me right now, just because I don't have a really solid grasp of all of the materials that are in the game and what works well with what. And I think I've touched on this before, where I feel like I build with these same materials because I'm comfortable with that, and it's what works. But I definitely, on this little stretch of building here, I wanted to kind of expand out, and that's the only way to grow as a builder in games like this, is to just kind of get out of your comfort zone and try new things, and that's what I wanted to do here, and that's what we did. But you'll notice the top here with the little, I don't even know what to call those. I'm not like an architect person, so I don't really know the technical terms, but these little I know we call them corbels at work, but I'm not sure if that's the same thing on the top of the building. But a lot of these same support structures are holding up the front top lip of the roof, and I really liked how that came out. And it's one of those things where I started doing it, and it kind of worked, and then I wanted to get a little bit more detail. It's one of those times when I was just like, what if I add this little bit more? And it actually ended up coming out pretty nice in the end. So you'll see me actually use the icing here. This is what I was just saying, that little bit more. I was trying to do just a little something. And I know Silverette has been using the icing pieces a lot for like trim and decoration, which is something that I definitely want to do, but it didn't look great here. So we actually go in and put these little stucco, or not stucco, or are they stucco? I don't even know. But they're the little edge trim pieces, and we end up using that as just a little bit more of an accent for this top area. And I really love how this building came out. Like I said, I don't know how it fits in and meshes with the rest of the block, but I don't know. On its own, it's really nice. So I actually didn't finish this building. I assume that there's going to be one more on the left side of this building, but you'll watch as I kind of do the front detail work here. And I actually use the ivy here as just a little bit of a ground cover, and I actually really liked how that looked. But yeah, I didn't actually finish the, I guess, fourth wall on this building, and that's for good reason. I had assumed that I'm going to be putting another building on to the next, like, in the row of buildings here, but I'm not really sure at this point. I may use this as the corner building. It's all about how that path work ends up kind of finishing up with the other path. I'll show you guys this in the live portion, but yeah, it's not done per se, but it's pretty much finished on the two sides that needed it. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking that we're gonna do something really cool with the corner, and it may be this building. We may use this as the corner building, but I want to make some sort of like restaurant, and that's what one of you guys had said in the comments of the last video, is to make these buildings kind of like, maybe not have a purpose, but definitely have just like signs on the outside that have like a pseudo purpose, like a pub or something along those lines. And that's a really good idea, but if we can actually work it in to have like an actual restaurant in it, that's even better, you know? So yeah, I may end up making that building one, but I'm not sure. But again, we'll figure that out as we go. So I realize it's been a couple episodes before we've actually put a ride down, and I really wanted to get that done. So you'll see right now I'm putting the chair lifts in, and of course going around and detailing around it. And yeah, I think we're almost ready to open the park, maybe in the next episode. So I don't know how this series is gonna, like, going forward. I'm not sure if we wanna, we're definitely gonna still do a lot of the building and designing portions, but I don't know how much of the management we want to actually do in the game and in the video. So if you guys want to weigh in on that, definitely let me know in the comments. But yeah, I don't know how much of the minute details you guys want to see of like adjusting prices and stands and training employees and all that. And to be honest, I haven't really done much of that myself. I haven't really played this game past a sandbox, I guess, feel, and I didn't actually go in and do much of the alpha with the management when that, I think Alpha 3 it was, came out. Didn't really do a lot of that. But it's definitely going to be a lot of a learning experience for me, and I'm looking forward to it. But what you're seeing right now is something that I've been talking about for a long time in this series, and it's the lockers that you'll see frequently in real theme parks. So I saw this science fiction piece, and it kind of looked like the lockers in my mind, and so I began kind of building around what I thought it was going to do, or what I thought I needed to do to make it look more like lockers. Now, you'll notice if you look close enough that these pieces are huge. That's the first problem with this. And then the second problem was that it wasn't really exactly, I guess all of the pieces didn't look the same. So the bottom ones have those whatever detail, like the black box and whatever, while the top two don't have anything. And it just didn't really sit well with me. So what you're gonna see me do here is actually go through and build a fully custom locker set. Now, this, in theory, isn't really hard to do. It's just finding the right pieces, and that's what you're seeing me do right now, is try to find something that makes this square look more like a locker. And in the end, it actually is this little decoration for Christmas. And yeah, it's the top of a decoration. That looks exactly like a locker knob, I guess, in my mind. So I went with that. And then, of course, I had to add some more details to get it to look more like a locker. So I just put a little bit of detail next to it with this little oval looking thing. And then, of course, we're going to build it all in to make it look like it's in a row of lockers. Now, this is really easy to do, except for the fact that if I selected multiple objects, which you're seeing me do right now, and I push the advanced move stuff, advanced placement tools, it didn't work. Like, for whatever reason, the origin points would be like way off to the side of the things, and they weren't like going directly on the same plane as that square. So this process actually took a lot longer than it needed to in my mind, and it's just because of a weird bug. You're kind of seeing it there. But yeah, it eventually we get it to a point where it actually looks like a locker, and I am actually extremely happy with how it came out. And of course, you guys can pick this up on the Steam Workshop. We're making a pavilion for these lockers, which is something that I've wanted to do ever since I thought of the locker idea. But I have a standalone locker, and like, you'll see when this kind of all gets built up. I'll show you. But I made a set of lockers that is a standalone set of lockers, and then a standalone set of lockers with front and back that are both blueprinted now, and those are also going to be up on the workshop. So the link to that, as always, is in the description of this video, so you guys can do this, or you can go grab these lockers and put them into your park without having to go through the monotony that is making them yourself. Because, like I said, it was extremely annoying with the tools and just the weird glitchiness of the tools in this current build of the game. I don't know if this is like a known issue. I don't know if they're going to be fixing it, but they really need to, because it's something that's really strange. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe I'll be able to show you better in the live portion if I remember. But yeah, you're just seeing me kind of build the rest of these lockers out. And then, of course, I take the whole thing and I just keep copy and pasting them. Copy and pasting them. And luckily, the little weird advanced placement bug, I guess is what I can call it, wasn't there when I copied all of them at the same time. So thankfully that wasn't like affecting us. But yeah, it was when I was trying to build just the lockers themselves, which was, annoying. But yeah, we got the whole little locker plaza done here now, just trying to get some of them placed right. And I actually ended up cutting a couple of them off of one just to give it a little bit more of a nice, I guess, symmetrical feel. But now we have to go through and actually put a roof over this, because you don't want the lockers to get rained on, and you don't want people to, I don't know, get wet while they're trying to put a combination. Or I think usually they're not combination lockers at parks, they're usually keys. But yeah, anyway, you notice if you look hard enough, there's an ATM here. I needed something to base the building off of, and the ATM, we didn't really have one in the park yet, so I figured we'll put one in here and I'll base this whole pavilion off of this. But it also accomplishes another thing, and that is to get people over to this area of the park. Because if it was just this locker, like, scenery, I don't think people would, I guess, walk over here on their own. There'd just be no point for them to get over here. But yeah, now that there's an ATM, we should be seeing some people kind of walk over here and at least do something. And it's gonna look like people are going to the lockers, which is awesome. I really kind of wish they would put or implement a locker into the game, like as an actual thing for guests to use. I think that would be kind of cool. Is it necessary? Probably not. But I feel like if guests buy like a big hat and maybe they didn't want to like carry it around, it would be kind of interesting if they could go and put it in a locker. It would also kind of act as just another thing to generate some money for parks, which is it reminded me that I wanted to talk about. I would love to be able to build this park in Sandbox to a certain point. And then I'd love to be able to just take it and set it off of Sandbox and then let like us manage the park. I feel like that'd be really cool, but I don't think that's actually possible. And I don't know, it's something that I have to look into and maybe ask around and see if it is possible. But it'd be really cool to convert this to like not a theme, what's the word? Like a scenario park, and then actually like manage it and grow the park from a certain point. That would be fun. But I don't think that's possible. But like I said, I'll keep my eye out. We're not even at that point just yet either. So yeah, you're seeing me right now build a little bit of I don't even know what you'd call this, a little bit of a wooden support structure. Now the roof is gonna sit atop of this, and I go through and I copy and paste this. This is a really interesting way to do this, is to use that flat roof as kind of like a canvas and then put the wooden pieces over it. And then I guess copy and paste it. And it made it a lot easier to copy and paste too. So it was kind of like just a little trick that I found that I actually really enjoyed using. And it's definitely something that I'm going to use moving forward as well. But yeah, there's a lot of the detail work that I cut out of this. I said that before, but if you notice by the swing set, or not the swing set, the swing ride, rather. There's a lot of like flowers and stuff that I actually cut out of the time lapse. I don't even think I bothered to record that because it's just me placing a bunch of bushes. Now, nothing really interesting about that except the fact that a couple of the bushes that I used, they're not bushes anymore. They're just flowers. So I'm gonna show you guys that as we wind this time lapse down, which is actually happening probably about now. So guys, I will see you over in the live portion. Alright guys, so here we are back in the live portion. We're back in Cedar Flags here, and this is what we did over the entire time lapse that was 20 plus minutes, which I think is the record for the longest time lapse that I've ever done on my channel. So yeah, we did a lot. I wanted to get a lot done. I had about 8 hours of footage to edit down, and why is this here? Anyway, this is what we did, and you'll notice that the mechanic I have here is strictly for scale. Like, I plopped him in because I needed somebody to scale up the size of these lockers, and right now the top ones are, you know, they're not, like, unrealistically tall, but they're a little bit of a stretch for somebody who would be, like, short. So, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It's going to look great in your park if you choose to download them. I can actually show you the blueprints for these right now since I have them. This is just the standalone locker set with just a 2x4, and then this is 2x4 front and back. So these are the lockers, and then of course you could download the entire pavilion. So we have this brown building, or not brown, wow, this gray building with the brown accents. I've named the Lookout like it was some sort of like pub or something. It just looks like some sort of pub to me for some reason. I'm not very down with the Europe. Well, that's not true. I've never been to Europe, so I figure like when I picture a pub in my mind, it's got these kind of like Tudor looking design details and elements in it, but this is what I've called it. And it actually directly relates to the fact that if you go in, and this is what I was talking about, from the outside looking in, you can kind of, it doesn't look like it's just a shell of a building. It looks like there's an interior to it. But if you come in, there's actually really nothing. There's a first aid station, and that's it. So guests are going to see a lot of just this, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think they are going to complain about that, but they can come up here and go out to this, which is the really cool Lookout. Now, I'm not sure if anybody's actually going to come up here because there's nothing here. It's just like a dead path. But we're going to see as we open the park whether or not people are just going to kind of wander up there. And then, of course, I put the modern wood in the back of the little railing side of the pathway on the interior of that building. But I really, really love how this has really come out so far. Now, like I said before, it's definitely like a clash of styles in a sense, but at the same time, not really. Like, I think these two buildings kind of work well together. This one's kind of like an oddball. Maybe it doesn't work, and you guys can let me know in the comments, but maybe the material's a little different, like a different region or something. But I love how the front of this building looks. I love this little like stone curb side thing that we've done here, and then the wood stairs up to the door. It's just such a really, I don't know, awesome, cute little building, I guess you could say. But then the backside, we did a little bit of detailing, but I didn't really want to do too much of it. I definitely cut it out of the time lapse because it's just kind of a meticulous work that really isn't that important to the overall being of that building. But as you can tell, we've switched this. It was just a roof piece before in the last video. It's now an actual functioning path. So people are going to be able to walk down here. Now, the path is going to end up coming over here and kind of meeting up with this somehow. I just haven't really decided. I think this might be, I might have to make a fourth wall on this. Well, I guess technically a third because that interior side doesn't actually exist. But I'm going to make another wall on this and maybe make like a small interior of this building and have like a chief bee for some sort of restaurant in there that people can walk into. And then this out here will just kind of be like a courtyard, maybe with some tables. That'll look pretty cool, I do believe. I'm not sure. In my mind, it looks awesome, but it's just getting it down on paper, and in this case, in the game, it's going to look really cool. That's going to be in the next episode for sure. I do want to do a lot of lighting in the next episode. That's something that I haven't really done. Like, a lot of this stuff isn't lit up. There's really no lights on the paths all that much. I feel like we need to address that before we open. But I think the end of the next episode will actually go through and open the park, which is going to be cool. But yeah, we have the swing ride here now. It's going to be kind of a nice little draw over here. It just fit well, I think, with the overall roof lines of all this. It kind of looks like it belongs here, and it's just a really interesting spot to put a ride because we didn't have anything over there, and we do have all our rides over here at this point. So we need to go through, or we needed to put something here, and it just fit. And then, of course, the little locker pavilion that we've talked about. Now, I don't think I addressed this yet, but I talked about this in the time-lapse, about how the advanced placement stuff wasn't really working. So if you're editing a building and you click on one element, like this extra small square. Now, if I hit X on my keyboard, or I hit this button, advanced move, you'll see I can actually move it on all of the planes that are, correct with the square. Now, if I select this and this using Control and I hit X, for some reason, the origin point is over here now and in no relation to these whatsoever. Now, this made it extremely frustrating to freaking go through and build these. But in the end, I did it. It took a while, but it ended up looking really nice. Now, you would think maybe one of these parts in this little selection is askewed in a way, like it was rotated weird, and that's why it's confusing this. But no, you see in the time lapse, if you go back and watch that, I took like the square, I moved it and duplicated it, and then changed it to the piece. So it should all be on the same thing, and I used the snapping to 45 degrees, the angle snap, to make sure it was exactly lined up in the same, I guess, way. But, yeah, whatever reason, that didn't work. That was annoying. But in the end, I really, really love how this looks. I love how this came out. And it's just such a really interesting little element to the park. Now, it's not actually functioning, but it just adds that little bit of realism to this park. And I really love it. It's just going to be so cool watching people come over here and act like they're actually going through and checking out a locker. But the one thing that I haven't mentioned just yet is all of this in here. This is like it's a flower. It's actually a bush. Like, if I grab one of these and I duplicate it, you can see it's this bush. I've just sunken them down into the ground so only the tops come up, and it looks great. It looks like there's just kind of wildflowers kind of growing here. And you'll notice that this path here has a curb on it. These paths do not, if I go over to the other side here. Now, I wanted to put a curb over here just to kind of maintain this little flower bed, And if I put the curb on the path using the actual path options, it would try to put a curb on this side too, and I didn't want that, so I had to go through. And I think these are actually just like windows. Yeah, I used those as a I sunk those into the ground and used those as a curb section. And they kind of go up and down just a little bit just to get, I mean, I don't know if I really like how they go up and down. It kind of looks like a castle wall, but if they were on the same plane, they were kind of clipping together, like getting a little bit of weird video game-ness going to them, if you know what I mean. But yeah, they were doing a lot of clipping and I didn't like that. But I think past that, I don't think there's anything else that wasn't touched upon in the time lapse, except for all of the shrubs that I went through in place. Now, these are wall climbers actually, and they just looked really cool, and I plopped them around the entire perimeter of this ride and the queue. And I was looking and I saw these little kind of like purple flowers in these actual wall climbers, and that's when I decided to put these bushes down just to add a little bit of more, I guess, flavor over here. You'll see them just kind of scattered throughout around here, and it just adds that much more, I guess, flavor to this area. I really, really like how this episode had turned out. The only other thing that hasn't been talked about is the rest of the detailing, and that's just adding a wall of shrubs. I just wanted to give, like, guests, if they were walking through here, I didn't want them to just stare at, like, the edge of the map, I guess. There's no reason they should be looking at, like, the wall, the cliffs on the terrain. I wanted to kind of keep their attention in here. So instead of looking out, and actually one of the main things was to try to cover up these little air conditioning unit kind of things here. So using these shrubs really covered those up well, and then I've just kind of used the shrubs and put them around this entire area, and it kind of makes that like pseudo park fence, which is something that a lot of parks in real life are gonna have, like an actual fence. But a lot of times they cover it up really well, so you're not just seeing like a chain link fence. So that's something that I want to do throughout the park. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to do that around here. Maybe with some more rocks throughout here, we'll probably end up looking at that. But yeah, I just don't want people to like look and see if they jumped out over this for some reason. Like if a kid were to just like jump out and just start running around here, it's like they would not have any boundary, you know, even though that is technically our boundary for the park. So I did want to kind of keep that in mind going forward in this series. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I have already kind of talked about what we're doing in the next episode, and that is this little plaza, maybe connecting this up, and then maybe another ride. And yeah, we apparently have to get a bunch of our vendors back. But we'll go ahead and do that. It's just because I've been running this game and there's really literally nothing for them to do. But yeah, so guys, if you like this episode, of course, give me a thumbs up on it. If you disliked it for whatever reason, thumbs down. Subscribe if you haven't been subscribed by now. I'm not sure how you got here if you weren't. But yeah, look forward to next episode. I'll see you guys back here. And of course, if you love the lockers or anything else in this series so far, it's in the link in the description. So guys, until next time, I'll see you back here in Cedar Flags.